Thank you, Honorable Shivambu.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm sure you'll agree with me, Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Movement, that we have spent a gruesome long day listening to uninspiring, lackluster, and mostly flat speeches and reputations by members of the ruling party. Majority of the ANC speakers here said nothing new and did not articulate anything different in terms of what is going to be done differently. Majority of them were campaigning for cabinet post-president. And all of them spectacularly failed. Maybe one could have succeeded. I guess that the uninspiring speeches and reputations of the ANC are somehow reflective of the organization itself. A post-centenarian organization, post-100 years organization, which has got signs of people who are above the age of 100. What are the features of people who are above the age of 100? They've got vision loss. They've got hearing problems. They've got cognitive impairments. They are forgetful. And that is what characterizes the ANC now. So the 106 years is not something worth celebrating. It's something that you must decry about that. Why do you insist clinging to power when you are characterized by all signs of centenarians? You are unable to provide direction to society. We want to take this opportunity to congratulate the newly elected president, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, to fill a vacancy in the office of president that had existed for the past 4 years. Because for the fact of the matter is, we did not have a president in South Africa. We had an imposter, a trickster, who had handed over political power to a criminal syndicate. And it's only now that we are saying we must have a president who must be monitored according to commitments that he makes. But he did not make any commitments. He did not say what is to be done. He didn't tell us what is the way forward. That is why members of the ruling party come here and put words in his mouth and say that the plan that we are questioning whether it exists or not is the National Development Plan. The president never spoke about the National Development Plan. Some even say that he spoke about the developmental state. He never spoke about the developmental state. Also, it will be crazy to could think that what the ANC is doing now is a developmental state. Just basic features of what a developmental state is to be is that it must be relatively autonomous from capitalist influences and interests. The fact of the matter is that the South African state is not independent from capitalist influences. It cannot direct the direction of capital in terms of where investments must be directed. So you must never speak about developmental states when you do not know, because clearly there's no plan. There is conferences that are proposed, summits, commissions. There's no clarity in terms of what you're dealing with. But you are inheriting a crisis-ridden state, which is in debt of more than 2.3 trillion rands, with exposure of state-owned companies that they've got guarantees of government. The debt that is guaranteed by the state in Eskom is 350 billion rands. In Sanral, it's 38.9 billion rands. In South African Airways, it's 19.1 billion rands. In Dinel, it's 1.8 billion rands. In the road accident fund, it's 8.5 billion rands. And these are the features that you are inheriting. The Gupta criminal syndicate has shifted billions of rands out of South Africa. It's a fact. SARS is failing to collect revenue in a manner in which is expected. A shortfall of 50 billion rands, as was announced here. The National Prosecutions Authority is dysfunctional. It works according to who is in political office. They only make arrests now that Jacob Zuma is no more. So it means that this NPA has got eyes. It looks as to who is the political principal. And what assurance do we have that it is not going to do the same thing if you ever commit crime? If the people around you commit crime, if your children commit crime, what assurance do we have that the NPA is going to fold its arms and not do anything about the high state of crime here in South Africa? The fact of the matter is that the many ministries that are existing and the ministers that are still in cabinet have closed their Pretoria head offices and are working from Saxonwold. I do not know now what is going to happen because the head office in Saxonwold is closed because AJ and Atul Gupta are on the run. The Ministry of Finance is given direction from Saxonwold. The Ministry of Mineral Resources is directed from Saxonwold. The Ministry of Public Service and Administration is directed from Saxonwold. The Ministry of Communications is directed from Saxonwold. The Ministry of Energy is directed from Saxonwold. Their interests are the ones that thrive over what has to happen. And why are we still having these ministers as ministers? They should have been gone as soon as yesterday. The Ministry of Cooperative Governance is directed from Saxonwold. They even wanted to expose state-owned municipality companies as debt guarantees so that municipalities can indebt themselves further as part of the proposals of the Gupta criminal syndicate. That is what we're sitting with now, that it's not an insignificant crisis that we've been dealing with. We therefore stand here to call for a definite termination of any relationship with South Africa's resources of the following ministers. Minister van Ryan must go. Zwane must go. Mutambi must fall. Nomvula Mukonyane must fall. Lynn Brown must fall. Ben Martins must fall. Batabile Dlamini must fall. Joe Masangani must fall. Bongo, I don't know his name, must fall. Mashobo must fall. All these ministers have got some form of direct or indirect relationship with the Gupta criminal syndicate, and we must not tiptoe around their interest with the Guptas. You say that we must send you, President. I do not know whether we should send you, because the people of South Africa sent you to preside over the Constitutional Assembly in the early 1990s. And you brought back the Constitution while it is celebrated over the world. But that Constitution just gave us political power. You did not heed the caution of Kwame Nkrumah, of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, who said that political power without economic power is meaningless. You just gave us the right to vote, and all indications are there that we are not in charge of our economy. The fact that there is 17 million social grants in South Africa with 11 million recipients of those grants is not a cause for celebration. It's a fact, it's a reflection that we have got deep-rooted poverty that has been reproduced since 1994. White people are still in control and ownership of our economy. The bottom 50% of the population are not affected significantly by the economic activities that happen in the JSE, in huge corporations, by this growth that we speak about every day. There's not even any impact on the lives of the bottom 50%. So it means that for the 24 years of the so-called democracy, we have neglected a critical component of our population. It's only now when you are introducing minimum wages and still you are going to exclude a significant number of our people. The Commander-in-Chief is correct that you did not come out with clear ideas in terms of what is to be done. Maybe we must take this opportunity to give you some few advices. We do that, we specialize in that, as a government in waiting. In terms of the issues that you must focus on, number one, you must establish a sovereign wealth fund. You would know that in the founding manifesto of the economic freedom fighters, in the pillar that speaks about the development of the African economy, we call for an establishment of a sovereign wealth fund. I know majority of ANC members will not know, will not understand the sovereign wealth fund, and will understand why they don't understand. Now we're going to quickly take you through that a sovereign wealth fund must be like an investment holding company like Temasek in Singapore. Temasek has got a net value of 275 billion US dollars. That is trillions of rands. In a country which has got a population of about 5 million. There are no mineral resources in Singapore. There are no strategic assets that South Africa has in Singapore. But the wisdom of the people of Singapore has created a holding company, a sovereign wealth fund that is earning the money, a lot of resources, non-tax contributions from all over the world through dividends. South Africa, long overdue, we should establish a sovereign wealth fund. It can be modeled in the form of the China's Investment Corporation. It's called CIC, in the context of what it is. The Chinese government copied what Temasek did and established the China Investment Corporation in 2007. It's worth more than 8 trillion currently. It contributes recurrently to the country's national revenue fund. Meaningful contribution. Why is it that South Africa cannot establish a sovereign wealth fund that is going to earn money for the people of South Africa all over the world through strategic investments? There is enough expertise found in the PIC and in the emerging black asset managers that can be redirected into the sovereign wealth fund in terms of how we move. The second component that you must deal with, you must establish a state-owned asset supervision and administration commission, similar to the SASAC organization that exists for the oversight of China's state-owned companies. The important component about China's state companies is that of the top 500 companies in the world, China has got more than 100 state-owned companies there in the global 500 who go all over the world to earn the Chinese government a lot of resources, invest in their development, and take it forward. But also when you reform state-owned companies, we should discontinue a phenomenon that single ministries are in charge of the whole state-owned company. You cannot have the Department of Public Enterprises as a single shareholder of ESCOM. There should be other role players, DBSA, IDC, PIC, so that accountability mechanisms are handled better in that level. The third proposal that we want you to look into, because you never told us what is to be done. Deal now clearly with tax avoidance. We have been crying on this for the longest time. SARS has got the necessary technical capacity to deal with tax avoidance. Legislate clearly on what we do with the billions of rands that are being lost to creative accounting practices of almost all the multinational companies that exist in South Africa. You must pass legislation on tax avoidance, illicit financial flows, base erosion, and profit shifting, so that we're able to deal with that. Because in the current framework of your revenue collection, you have got a permanent short blanket of a revenue. You cannot cover everything. I would tell you now for free that if you were to deal decisively with all South Africa's developmental challenges, you'll possibly need 10 times the budget South Africa has currently to eradicate informal settlements, provide fee-free education for all, provide proper quality roads for all, and absorb the millions of unemployed. You will need 10 times the size of the budget. What do we do to deal with non-tax and tax revenue collection streams so that we're able to balance that? But one of the most important things that you have to deal with in the immediate is to expand the quantitative and qualitative space at the post-secondary and post-secondary training and education space. Because there is 1 million children in universities and TVET colleges, but there is 2 million learners who are eligible to access the system who are outside. because the space cannot absorb anyone. And you do not narrowly need to focus on building of new universities. You have demonstrated that you do not have capacity to do that. Expand the existing universities. Give an instruction to UCT, to Wits University, to University of KwaZulu-Natal, that from now on there must be an annual intake increases of not less than 20% of students. That is the only way that you will be able to quantitatively expand the space and give meaning to all of these issues. The last issue that we're going to deal with is that we are not happy with your close relationship, President, with white monopoly capital. They seem to be very comfortable with you. If white monopoly capital is comfortable with you, it means something is wrong. You cannot be friends with white monopoly capital. So there must not be celebration of the Ruperts, of Brian Joffe, of Stephen Koshev, of all those capitalists that your election into office of president means that they're going to continue to loot. And lastly, we want to only send you to one place. Please go to Marikana. You do not need a court order to pay for compensation in Marikana. Why should you be ordered by a court as government to compensate the widows of families that were killed callously in an embarrassing and unjustified way by the ANC government in 2012? Let us intervene in Marikana as soon as possible. Let's give the people of Marikana houses. Let's give the people of Marikana proper quality water. Let us give the widows life and hope that tomorrow will be better than yesterday. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Chief Whip of the Opposition.